The Cleveland Browns make another key defensive addition. What does it mean? We're going to do a deep dive today, and also fantasy football quarterback rankings and pairings with wide receivers. Big show coming up right now on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cut back by Chubb. He's to the 10. He's still running to the 5. He dips outside left. He's going in. Touchdown. What a run. Nick Chubb.
It's going to be sick.
Hello, everybody. The offseason continues. Mini camps, OTAs, all that good stuff with the Browns. I'm Andy McNamara. Get us on Twitter at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81 on Instagram, at AndyMC Sports. Make sure to click that notification button, folks, okay? Click it, share it, subscribe, because not only are you getting all your Cleveland Browns goodness, but you're getting your fantasy football, previews, draft specials, and sports betting tips all throughout the offseason and regular season. So make sure you subscribe, share. We always appreciate that. Leave comments down below as well. Check out the merch store link in the show description. So later on, we're going to get to my fantasy football, and this is early. These can all change, of course, right? This is a moving target. But right now, I wanted to look at fantasy football quarterbacks along with their wide receiver pairing. When does it make sense to stack, and when, according to ADP, and really what I think about when these guys should be drafted compared to the hype. But first, let's talk some Browns. And folks, last week, oh baby, Za'Darius Smith, Andrew Berry, the chef, he's in the kitchen, he's stirring the pot, and I love it. He went all in. So we chatted with this gentleman back, I believe, in January. It was right before the Super Bowl and all that, to go over some deep dive into Browns. The defensive coordinator with Jim Schwartz, get to learn his defense. And this is no better to come from Garfield Heights High School, former head coach and contributor to Cleveland.com. Let's bring him in right now. Lance Reisland. Lance, how are you?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Great to have you back, man. So, look, I love your pieces, and you always incorporate visuals. And a lot of us are visual learners, and being able to say, okay, this is what this player coming to the Browns means. It's great to say he's got X number of sacks. He's made 3 Pro Bowls in his last 4 years. But just overall, before we break down the X's and O's of it, Lance, what was your thoughts to this signing? Because I saw this, I was like, Andrew Berry, bravo. I don't think you could do much better for a 1-year rental pass rusher opposite Myles Garrett.
Well, you watch him on film, he's outstanding. So he was outstanding his days, Green Bay. He had a great year last year with the Colts. He is the perfect fit in terms of what Jim Schwartz wants. So all the numbers you talk about. So he's a pro's pro. So he's got 54.5 sacks in his career. He had 10 last year. But when you talk about me, more than sacks, it's the QB hurries, it's the QB hits. He also plays the run very well. His number one quality, though, for Jim Schwartz defense is his flexibility. He can play multiple positions, which my article kind of talked about, because I thought that was so important in terms of, he lines up in a 3 technique, at being 6'5" in that 270, 280 range and having such strong hands. He can play down inside. He can play, I think one of the looks that you're going to see with the Browns is him playing next to Myles Garrett down inside, or Myles down inside, because they're both heavy. He can come off the edge. He can play in multiple fronts. I love his ability to come from the second level. He can cover if needed. He's a really, really good athlete. His hands, he plays with great extension. Something that's not talked about is he plays the run very well. The Browns also, besides just having 30 sacks last year, they struggled against the run. So he brings an added element of not only can he rush the passer, but he's really good against the run. He's a pro's pro. It's a great pickup for the Cleveland Browns.
It is. They eat some of the salary, and it makes sense. And he's going to be motivated, of course, right? Looking for that next big contract. This is the best kind of 1-year rental that Andrew Berry has gotten. There was Olivier Vernon before that coming over via trade. There was it Tack McKinley, and not bad. Jadeveon Clowney, all talk, all size, but we knew he didn't have the sack numbers. This is the first true, okay, this guy's a star, man. This guy, and I like what you were saying, and we'll bring up some visuals in a moment, but the versatility, because although the Dalvin Tomlinson edition was nice, they still have trouble with, or potentially could still have trouble with, that penetration up the middle. But now you get that. Now you have, like you said, that flexibility. You're going to line him up next to Myles. Well, that's a disaster. Then you can put Obo on the field as well. How about you sprinkle in Isaiah McGuire? It just gives them more options, right?
Well, yeah, and he gives you, he's always been the focus. So when people always say, what would be his interest coming to the Browns? Well, he's really, really good, but he's not Myles Garrett good. Is it good as he is? So in my opinion, so Myles is still going to be the focus of what offenses have to stop, offenses have to do in terms of, you come in on Monday, what do we stop? What do we got to do? We got to block Myles Garrett. Now, what that does is that's going to create one-on-one matchups for all these guys. So when you think about him playing on the other end, which I think he will at times, I also see, like you're saying, I see Obo going to the opposite end, and then you put either Myles at the 3 or at the 5, and then you have Smith at the 3 or the 5 next to each other. So there's some flexibility there, and you can also put Smith. And they did it last year a little bit with Myles, where you actually can put him off the ball and you can bring him from depth. And he gives you that versatility. And with Schwartz is all about being upfield, causing pressure. The best way to cover is to get after the quarterback. That's the best coverage you can have, is get after the quarterback. He likes to play man. They got the corners for it now. The pressure is definitely now on the staff to make sure they get these guys in the right spot, because they've addressed all their needs. This guy fits. He is just an outstanding in terms of his flexibility and what he means to the Browns, getting upfield, stopping the run, and getting after the passer.
Yeah, and you only get the benefit truly of having Myles Garrett if you have someone that the other teams, like you said, the other teams are still going to focus on Garrett, but if someone else is causing trouble, well, then you're going to have to pay some attention over there. And guess what? That frees up Garrett more, or it frees up somebody else. It's a beautiful flow. In conversation with Lance Reisland, contributor to Cleveland.com. All right, let's bring up some of the photos here from your article here on Cleveland.com. You can check that out right now. Let's go through a few of these. We'll rotate through these, Lance, because this is a look at the defense with Za'Darius Smith on the Vikings.
So what you have here is you can see Smith. He's in the kind of the middle there. I got him labeled. He's at the 3 technique, and with the Vikings, they're down here, so they actually got him standing up as a 3 technique. So he's a stand-up 3 technique, and what they do a really good job of, and this is a Schwartz kind of thing. So the DC with the Vikings does a nice job. So on the other side, you have a wide 3 and a wide 5. That's going to occupy the right guard and the right tackle. The left guard, left tackle, and the center are going to kind of work to their left. Now, as the play starts, Smith will come, he will blitz, and he's going to go to the center. Now, the left guard, because that nickel kind of shows, the left guard has to eye up that nickel and can't really help on Smith coming in that A gap. And then obviously that left tackle has to kick for the wide 5. So he's creating a matchup with the center, and then his length and his ability to get off people make him a true mismatch inside. So as much as he beats tackles with speed, he beats those guards and centers who are usually not as athletic. He beats them with just raw talent. So he has such a good pass rush plan. He can bull rush, clubs, rips, swims. He's about as impressive as I've seen on film in terms of counters and things he does. So this is just an idea of what Schwartz will do. This is a matchup that they got, put him at the 3, isolate him on the center, and he's going to win for a sack on Kyler Murray.
And as we know, Schwartz does run that wide 5 and wide 9. All right, let's go to the next one here. Let's pop another one up here, and we'll take a look. All right, so Smith on the inside move for the sack. So this is from that play. And so what you're saying is going after that left guard.
So, so what you have now, if you can see the left guard's kind of standing there, not blocking anybody. He's the last one there, and he's actually looking at that nickel. So what that did is that put the pressure on that center to block him one-on-one. He just easily beats him inside. All he does really is a little bull rush and then just beats him with athleticism. Those centers, it's hard for the center to snap and block, especially an athletic guy who's 280. He kind of gives you the Myles Garrett in terms of being able to take power to speed or speed to power. Not many guys can do that. So he just simply beats the center. The center doesn't know he's coming because he was lined up at a wide 3. And then it's just an easy matchup, and he wins inside. So this is the end of that first clip you saw. This is the end of it. This is him getting the sack. Again, just a really good job by Minnesota, and something that the Schwartz will do as well in creating. When people say he creates matchups, this is an example of it. He got his guy against the center, and he's going to do it. He does it a couple different times during this game, where he does it from a 3 technique, and he also does it from a Mike backer. So again, finding matchups, and Smith is the master of being able to beat multiple guys on the offensive line.
Let's roll to the next one. And Lance, to your point though, in Minnesota and where he's been before, he's been the guy. He's been the Myles Garrett. But now he doesn't have to be the Myles Garrett. So we're talking about a situation where, again, the defenses are going to be focusing, trying to double team, and he'll get those one-on-ones, and you'll be able to use him as a secondary piece with the upside of a guy who's got 3 out of, and the only reason he didn't in the other years because he played 1 game and got hurt, but his last 3 active seasons made the Pro Bowl and got double-digit sacks. So that's what's so exciting. Okay, take us through this.
So here's a great example. This is the second picture I had of him at the Mike center. So you can see him over top of the center here. He's going to beat the same center. So the center, they found a matchup they liked, and they got to it a couple of different ways. So if you look at the play, the right end is actually going to drop, but that right end was on the line of scrimmage. So I always tell people, whether he's coming or not, the left tackle has to account for him. So left tackle accounts for him, and then he's going to help. And you can see the wide three, he's really not rushing. He's just kind of standing there, which I labeled there. So now the guard and tackle are blocking a guy who's not rushing and a guy who's dropping. And this is the matchup thing that these defensive coordinators do a great job with. Now, on the left side, you have a wide 3, wide 5 that occupies both the right guard and the right tackle. What you really like here is, by doing this, not only do you create the matchup, but if you can see those lanes, that's a lot of space for him to be able to work moves because of the wide 5 and the wide 3. So again, now where before he was at the 3 technique, on this particular play, he's at the Mike. They still got the matchup they want. They still only had to rush 4, which means they have 7 in pass pro, and they get the matchup they want. They're bringing 3 over 2, and they win here. Again, big sack on Kyler Murray, who can move his feet. This is a classic thing that Schwartz and these defensive coordinators like to do now, finding matchups and winning these matchups.
Let's go to the next one here. But Lance, from what you said, that space and what that allows somebody like a Smith with that athleticism, like you said, who can have the bend, that ankle bend, the twist, move that arm and get around the side. You have options there, right? He can go left, he can go right. He's got space. And like you said, the defense can draw. And when you have someone like Jim Schwartz who's done it, who's been so creative, and you have those other weapons like Myles Garrett, and let's face it too, Tomlinson in the middle is that kind of plug, and you can just move people around. It's wonderful. So you think about that, and it's great point, is the fact that not only is that wide 3 and wide 5 create those one-on matchup, but it creates space, and you need space to work. And so when you see these guys in the wide 5s, wide 5s, wide 3s, wide 5s, you're getting space to work. So here, watching his film and watching a ton of games from the last 3 years, he has a very high level pass rush plan. Now, I remember talking a couple of days ago, and I said his plan to rush the passer is actually a little bit more complicated than Myles Garrett. And people are like, well, he's not as good as Myles Garrett. It's not that he's as good as Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett can flat out beat you with speed and bend, and he does other things, but Smith can actually beat you with bull rush, multiple clubs, multiple rips. So here, he always, because of his size, he can always start in speed. He can always start with a speed rush, which he does. And then you can see the tackle is actually leaning forward. And by leaning forward, he's lost. So he's simply going to go with a double club, get those hands away. And if you look at the left hand of the left tackle there, it's down by his thigh board. He's beat. So once that hand is down there, Smith is going to get his left hip past the left hip of that tackle. And that's how you get sacks. And the thing I like about him is that the picture that comes after this is him. He's always looking to cause fumbles. So again, a very advanced pass rush move. He reacts to what he sees. Not only can he win with what he does, but he can also win on what he sees. So here he sees the tackle kick. Tackle does a pretty good job. The tackle's leaning. And with the tackle leaning, he goes with the double swipe, gets rid of those hands, and then wins around the corner. And let's go to that next one to see what Lance was saying there. So this is right after that play. So we see, look, he's gotten around the tackle and now ready to create some havoc.
So you can see the left hand, very classic drill. We work on it all levels. So the left hand is going to secure the tackle, secure the sack, but why not get the ball out? So you're going to see this drill worked a ton. Schwartz is going to work this drill a ton. So the left hand is going to secure the tackle. The right hand is coming over to get the ball out. And these guys are looking for, as 15, 20 years ago, you're looking for the big hits.
The clothesline club. Boom.
Yeah, you're not looking for big hits. You're looking for the ball. And this is a really, really a really high percentage way to get the ball out is a quarterback's blind side. You're going to get the hit here, but the big thing is get that right hand over top. Again, very fundamentally sound, does things right, wins with speed. In this game, for instance, he beat the left guard, he beat the left tackle, he beat the center. So he constantly wins. The year you said that he didn't have double-digit sacks in the last year, he was hurt. He only played one game. So he's got a great motor, a great plan. Besides Myles Garrett, this is as good a guy you're going to get in terms of big, strong, fast, power to speed, speed to power. He's pretty good at all of it.
100%. This is the thing. Like for free agents that were still available, I was thinking Frank Clark, maybe Robert Quinn. But for Andrew Berry to go out and get a trade, this is the guy. You're not going to get better on a 1-year type of rental situation with the contract restructuring. It's a motivated guy. It's a hungry guy. I think we have one more image here from Lance's article on Cleveland.com. There we go. So this is the last one here, just to give another kind of look.
So here's what, this one's, it's not as clear, but the point being here is that when he gets, whether he's in the run game or pass game, his length allows him to play, and his length and strong hands allow him to play with extension. And we always talk about, as a D-line coach, we want to get people extended away from us. So whether he's being blocked by a tackle, a receiver, a tight end, a back, he creates great extension from him and the person that he's getting rid of. And by creating that extension, he's able to get his eyes, his vision in the backfield. So here's a great play. The Cardinals are going to run a same side split zone. I remember breaking this play down a couple nights ago, and they got a huge hole. And if you look at that hole there, they got a big hole to run there. And what he does by extending that guy, he's able to get rid of that tackle and bend down inside and make a play to kind of prevent a big run there. So again, his extension, my point on this clip was just that his extension in both the run and the pass game make him very, very tough to block, because his eyes are always in the backfield, finding where the football is, and then getting rid of his guy with his strength and length, and then he can find the ball and make plays. Right.
We can take that down. Great. And that's what we need to remember too. The extra bonus, the sacks are sexy, right? We like the sacks. We like those numbers, right? The bend around the corner and get at the quarterback. But stopping the run was such an Achilles heel for this team last year, Lance. Like ridiculously so, with the undersized defensive tackles. Teams would, the Miami game jumps into mind, right up the middle, and they just kept doing it. And there was nothing the Browns can do, and nothing disheartens a defense more than being run on. Well, now you have someone who can get after the quarterback, but also is not a liability and can stop the run. That's that extra bit that I don't think gets talked about enough with Za'Darius Smith.
Well, yeah, and you have these guys, Ika, and Siaka Ika, and you have Dalvin Thompson. So you got these big body guys, and then you've addressed your pass rush. You've addressed your more the body type. They got some big bodies inside there. And that run game, because as good as the pass rushers as these guys are, you have to get to second long and you have to get to third long. And if you don't win on first down, I don't care if it's high school, college, or pro, if you don't win on first down, now the offense dictates. Right. If you can get a stop on first down and keep it for 2nd and 7+, you now dictate. You now decide how things go in terms of your personnel packages and what you're going to do. When you get to 2nd and 5 or 2nd 5 or under, you're at the whim of the offense. And too many times last year, you talk about the Browns secondary, and you talk about Myles Garrett, and you talk about, well, there so many times they're at 2nd 5, but 2nd 5, the whole playbook's open. And so for a defensive coordinator, you want to win on first down and win on first down. Now you do what you want. Now, however you want to do it, if you want to bring a nickel, if you want to put people at the 3 technique, 5 technique, whatever you want to do, if you have it 2nd and 7+, you're now in charge. And that's what the Browns got to get to, because so many times last year it's 2nd 2, 2nd 3. And they, it wasn't always, people always talk about the big plays they gave up. For me, it was, as a play caller for a long time. And if I have 2nd 2, you're really, really happy at 2nd 2, because no matter how bad the play is, it's going to be 3rd and 2, unless you do something really, really silly. So you have the whole playbook open. You can take shots down the field. You do whatever you want as offense coordinator. So the Browns, regardless of how good these guys are, they had to shore up that run game. And now they got to win on first down. So now you can showcase Smith and Garrett and showcase the secondary that you think is outstanding, which they are, and they're going to be in man coverage. So now you're saying, we're going to get after passer, we're going to crowd the line of scrimmage, we're going to man up these corners and safeties and things like that. We're going to play one high hat. We're going to crowd the line of scrimmage. I like it. I like the aggression, and I think these are the guys that can. I think the personnel inside now fits what the Browns are going to move to.
Yeah, big mass, big dudes. And when I think, even though Tomlinson, for example, isn't necessarily a pass rushing interior defensive lineman, but he's a space filler. And the difference is now, even if you can push back a little bit, because we know how these speedy mobile quarterbacks, you can get around the edge. And how often, Lance, did we see Myles Garrett just missed a guy, like a half second? Well, maybe if you can get a Tomlinson and an Ika pushing a bit, right? Not getting the set, but pushing a little bit. That gives you that extra, that gives you that rush, throws the quarterback off a little bit, and it all goes in tandem, right? Brown's adding some more depth at safety with Rodney McLeod, and we know with how the linebackers are built, looks like they're going to be going, bringing down that safety and using the extra safety instead of the linebacker typically, right?
Well, yeah, I think like people have asked me who I think is going to shine. There's a lot of guys who are going to shine, but one guy who's going to really make a big push this year from what he was is Grant Delpit, because Grant Delpit now gets to play to his strength. He's going to be down the line of scrimmage, and he's going to make a ton of plays down there. When you think about like Siaki Ika, Ika is not a great guy against double teams, and people are like, well, he's not great against double teams. But what Schwartz wants is what you said before in terms of that push. He's going to be in gaps, and when you get Thompson and you get Ika and you get these guys in gaps, it's really hard to stop a guy who's 330 unless you get help. Even if you're better than him, it's tough. You're going to get these push. So he wants to play forward. He wants to penetrate in those gaps. So where they're not two gapping as much, and they will, and Thompson's played at Alabama. He played under Saban, so he can do all that stuff. But see, Ika early on just has to get in that B gap or A gap and just come and just force multiple guys to block him, because it's really hard to take a guy who's 330 and stone him right there at the line of scrimmage unless you get help. And especially when he's especially if he's to your shade, if you're the center, if he's in that B gap and you have Myles Garrett outside you, it's hard they have some things that they can do, but those big bodies, and it also, if you're blocking those guys, you have to put two bodies on them, even if you move them. So again, if you have two bodies on them, maybe you can occupy some guys to keep those smaller linebackers free. So those big bodies, regardless, people are saying, well, it's not a Joe Woods scheme. It's now a Schwartz scheme. It has to be different. Regardless of scheme, you got to have big bodies inside. If you don't have big bodies inside, you get moved, and that's at every level. And in the NFL, it's just you see it more, but at every level, if you don't have big bodies inside and they can run the ball, it doesn't matter how good your pass rush is or anything else. So that's what they've addressed. Regardless of how they play early on, Ika is going to be a pain in the butt for an offense because he's going to be fresh. He's probably not going to start, and he's just going to come in and he's going to come in a gap hard, and that's going to be tough.
Yeah, and also, so you have that, and like you said, not necessarily great against double teams. The key word there is two words, is double team, because then it's two bodies on him. And then guess what? Well, if you got two bodies on Ika or on Tomlinson, well, there's only so many linemen, man. You can't. That means Myles Garrett's going to be free, or maybe it's Smith. Again, everything works better when you have those big body dudes, because if you have to attend the middle, that's going to leave everybody else open, right?
Well, one of the things we always talk about when I was in the staff meeting is how do you create pass pressure? How do you stop a pass game? And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. Obviously, pass rush and receivers. But one thing you can do is that the Browns now have a couple guys who are better. So teams are going to have to account. So that means taking out a receiver maybe and going 11 personnel instead of 10. Now you take a speed guy off because that tight end's got a chip. Maybe you got to keep the back in. So now you're getting 4 out instead of 5. Maybe you have to slide your protection, go 6-man protection instead. So again, you're only getting 4 out, or maybe 3 out, or maybe you have to max protect a little bit and you only get 2 out. Well, those are great ways to stop the pass. Get less people out in the pass game. If less people are out. So there's a lot of different things that the Browns will do with their personnel now that people won't necessarily see. People will see the sacks. People will see things, but if Ika comes in the game and 2 people block him, that's a win. If he doesn't get moved, if he doesn't get moved out of his gap and fights like heck to stay in his gap, that's a win. Because 2 people are, like you said, 2 people are blocking him. That means a back better be chipping on Myles Garrett, or a tight end better be staying in. And even if the tight end gets in the route, that's a lot better than a 4th receiver in the NFL. Sure. So the idea of that they could create this pressure. And you either have to beat, as an offensive coordinator, you have to beat pressure or you have to block pressure. And, there's only so many hits you want to take as a quarterback. So it's going to get to the point, it should, where teams are going to have to go different personnel groups to block these guys, which means less guys are on the route. You cover better.
That should help the secondary. And again, everything flows. Lance, I'm pumped, man. I'll tell you. That's Za'Darius Smith. That just sent me into the weekend. I was so excited.
Yeah, they've addressed. I've talked with you before. When we talked before, we talked about like the things they need to address. They've addressed every need. Mm-hmm. Now that's on paper. You don't win on paper, but if you said before, these are who the Browns are going to get, you'd be like, oh, that's an incredible offseason.
I'll take that.
Right?
Yeah. This is that all-in mentality. And what I like as well is it shows. We talked about this on the program before. Is that it shows development in Andrew Berry and that whole front office as a unit and growing. They're not stubborn. How often do we see in sports? Oh, that's my type of guy. They didn't double down on their thin, tiny defensive tackles. They're like, look, we got to get big body dudes in there to rumble. And they did. Every need was addressed. You need the Cedric Tillman. You got it. And everything is there now. So now Andrew Berry's like, okay, Kevin Stefanski, here you go. And now it's up to the coaching staff to see what they can do.
Well, and I will always be in the back of a coach, but I think Stefanski has proven himself as a winner and proven to be able to do good things. Last year, that Watson thing and what he does off the field is relevant in terms of as a practice, though. They had to prepare one guy for 10 games, another for 7. And, then they can't stop the run. And, there's a bunch of different stuff that tie into that. So I think with having Watson having a full offseason, they've addressed their needs. They should get more favorable down and distances to rush the passer and et cetera, et cetera. So it is kind of all come together. It's everybody has to be on the same page. And, you talk about healthy. Yeah, and you talk about the guardrails. They only draft under 21. Well, they drafted a couple guys and went out and got some free agents that are a little bit older because I've always been a believer that you got to have guys who have great potential, but in the NFL you got to have productive guys who have they have potential. Now they're producing. Guys like Smith, guys like McLeod. These guys have produced at a high level at a championship level. People talk about McLeod. One of the great things about McLeod is that he's going to be able to show these guys what Schwartz wants in practice. And that's a big deal. What does he want to do on Mondays? What does he do on Tuesdays? How does he want us to watch film? How do we line up to certain formations? McLeod is now their cheat sheet. And that's so helpful in terms of getting your team ready to go. It's going to be all new verbiage. It's going to be all new stuff. But now you got McLeod there who can say to Delpit, who can say to Thornhill, who can tell Myles Garrett, here's what we're doing behind you on these plays. So having him not only for his ability, but his ability to communicate. He played 3-4 years with Schwartz, so he understands how Schwartz wants to play in terms of the practice week, not just on game day, but the whole week leading up to it. So really good. Really, those guys are outstanding pickups.
Yeah, and he's still playing at a high level at 32. So now he can be that secondary quarterback. Lance, tell people where they can find this great article to read more in depth in all your work.
It's just at Twitter. I'm at Lance Reisland, LanceReisland.
There you go. And Cleveland.com contributor and a great high school coach in the past as well at Garfield Heights. Lance, always love it, man. You got me excited. Browns fans, you got to be excited with this. Let's go. We'll talk to you again soon.
As always, Andy, thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. There you go. It's Lance Reisland. All right. Oh, I'm pumped. Come on, people. We watched that with Za'Darius Smith. What keeps jumping out to me is this. Za'Darius Smith was a Pro Bowler 3 out of 4 years with those sack numbers, with those double-digit sack numbers, but as the main guy. Now he can be the secondary guy. And unlike that whiner Jadeveon Clowney, that quitter, we get a guy who's hungry, who's motivated, who wants that next contract, but also is in his prime and doing it and doesn't have to face the top competition. That's going to be going to Garrett until Smith starts producing. Then they're going to have to shift. If these guys can stay healthy, folks, this could be the missing piece of the puzzle. It really could. I think we just saw Andrew Berry. Bravo. I dump on them as much as anybody, from the GM to the coach. But when they hit it, you got to give them credit. This is a slam dunk. If this doesn't go well, this is not Andrew Berry's fault. Bottom line. This dude's put everything in place for things to work on offense and on defense. Could you do more at linebacker? Sure. But that's not what this defense with Jim Schwartz is predicated on. So it's fine. Very excited. Great job by Lance Reisland for stopping by. Okay. Let's talk a little fantasy football, people. Okay. Let's talk a little fantasy football. Now, way too early. And I will say this multiple times to the show through the off season. If you're in a season-long draft, now if you're going to play a little best ball and have some fun, whatever. But for leagues you care about, do not draft until after the final preseason game. Don't do it. You're going to be tempted to do it. You want to do it. I want to do it. Don't do it. Because what's going to happen if you do, and you draft after the first preseason game, then you're going to be hitting me up on Twitter at AndyMC81 using hashtag AskAndy, at SickPodBrowns on Instagram at AndyMCSports. Saying, Andy, my wide receiver got hurt. I'll still help you. Don't get me wrong. But I'll say, well, you should have listened and waited until after. So just prefacing that. But let's look at some quarterback and receiver combos here. And one of the best values I think that we're going to find is the Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson combo. Right now, the ADP for Aaron Rodgers, 14th quarterback off the board, 91st overall pick. So right now, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets is going after guys like Tua, after Kirk Cousins, after Daniel Jones. Now, especially with Tua, I'll say this right now. Tua, folks, no fly zone for me. Not because of the talent. When he's in, we know he can go. You can't trust the health. You just can't. You just can't. Do you want to have Tua as your main quarterback, your QB1, and worry the whole year? It also downgrades what you can expect out of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, right? That's just facts. Not that you're not going to draft the guys, but I'm hands off. I'm not drafting Tua in any of my leagues. I'll say that right now, based solely on health. Now, Aaron Rodgers, though, okay, we know he's older, he's almost 40. You know, is he done? Is New York? Is it too much hype? Maybe, but he's also got something to prove, and he's also made worse wide receivers into stars. I want to pair Aaron Rodgers with Garrett Wilson. Now, of course, you're going to have to draft Garrett Wilson first. So you're going to, looking at this, you're going to be able to get Aaron Rodgers quite late, 91st overall. Again, 14th quarterback off the board. If you're in one QB league, you can get him late. Now, we pair that with a Garrett Wilson. So we'll go with PPR. That's the one I personally like. But, if you have any questions with standard or whatever, let me know. But if we look at Garrett Wilson right now, 10th wide receiver off, 15th overall. So 15th overall. So that's just into the second round. I love look what Garrett Wilson was able to do with the garbage at quarterback he had to deal with last year. Okay. Let's look at the numbers. 1,103 yards in 17 games, 83 catches, 4 touchdowns. Now, we know Aaron Rodgers likes to have a guy, and he's got his safety blankets. He's got Lazard and Cobb, but he'd be an idiot to not go with Garrett Wilson. So if you have Garrett Wilson with the Rodgers talent, who's going to sling it, that's a money combo. You get Garrett Wilson in the second round, then you can wait and fill out your roster and get Aaron Rodgers whenever later. Like I said, 95th overall. Wait, I'm seeing Patrick Mahomes go at the top of the second round. Now, Mahomes, we know, fine quarterback, obviously. Heck of a talent. Josh Allen, too. Jalen Hurts going in the second round. But when you look at it, okay, what am I giving up? This is always the risk reward for these quarterbacks. Okay, now we know if we're pairing Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, that's the only combo you should look at. But the only way I would do that is perhaps if, let's say, you're at the maybe you're at the turn, maybe you're a little lower in 12-team league, maybe you're at 11. Let's say you're at 10 or 11, and you get Travis Kelce. Well, we know the tight end group is as thin as ever, if not thinner than in years past. So if you went Kelce and then swung back and got Patrick Mahomes, I wouldn't personally do it. I would probably go look to see what the running back and wide receiver situation was like. But you could talk me into that, because then I got arguably the best, at least a top 3-4 fantasy quarterback. You got the best tight end, although at some point that's going to start to dip. Ugh. But still, even if he dips, he's going to be better than most of the other guys. So you get that combo. Now, Josh Allen, of course, Stephon Diggs, end of story. You want to do Gabe Davis? Gabe Davis is being drafted much lower now. Remember last year, folks, he was going in the second round. Now his ADP's around the 4th round. That I wouldn't mind as the number 2 target. Kincaid and Knox, don't bother on the tight end side there. They're going to cannibalize each other, and Kincaid's going to take a little bit. Then you look at Jalen Hurts. I love me some Jalen Hurts. I do, folks. Jalen Hurts, again, I don't want them in the second round. But if they drop in the 3rd round, that's the earliest I would start to look. I get asked all the time, what's the earliest I should look at quarterback? Earliest, if you hit nicely and get a running back and a wide receiver, or a top tight end and a running back or wide receiver, then I would look 3rd round. Okay. Now, if you decide to kind of not punt on the quarterback position, but wait and stack up wide receivers, whatever. Right. So with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, number 1. Also, if you can't get AJ Brown, you could wait a little bit for Devonta Smith. Devonta Smith's done really well. Maybe a Dallas Goedert if you wait a little bit further. So maybe you get Jalen Hurts in the 3rd and stack him with a Dallas Goedert. Or could you get him? Maybe, again, 4th round, depending if there's a run around that area. Then you get, your Joe Burrows after that. But if you want to wait a little bit, this is a Brown show. Deshaun Watson isn't getting the respect I think that he is going to warrant. And people are going to look back and like, oh, man, we got Deshaun Watson in the 7th round? That's a real possibility. Remember, like him or not personally, he can run. And this offense Look at what's been built by Andrew Berry. Look at what's been put around. They're going to throw, and they're going to throw a lot. And then he can run. This is going to be a high-octane offense, or at least they're going to try to. The pieces are in place. I would love an Amari Cooper stack with Deshaun Watson. Of course, if you can get Nick Chubb, 1-2 combo, absolutely. Dynasty, I like Cedric Tillman, likely to take over either in the future from Amari Cooper or Donovan Peoples-Jones. So a Cooper Watson or Chubb Watson stack is, I think, where you want to go with that. That's kind of the sweet spot there. Then after that, then you get into those lower ones. Like I said, Aaron Rodgers, that I think is absolute money. Daniel Jones, probably. I'm not buying Geno Smith again. What a year. Great story. But do we want to go Geno Smith? If you do, and again, you can wait. If you got Geno Smith near the end and you filled out everything else, great. Then stack him with a DK Metcalf. I would pass on Ty Lockett and maybe come with a Smith and Jigba and do that way. That's kind of that combo I would go with. After that, last one, Russell Wilson. It's a risk because either he forgot how to play quarterback or Sean Payton's going to remind him how. And if he's reminded how, then we can have some fun. Jerry Jeudy did not get dealt. So maybe it's a Jeudy Russell Wilson combo. Cortland Sutton. There's some health issues there. But that, again, is if you want to wait. But the best value, I think, is Garrett Wilson in the second and wait and get Aaron Rodgers if people are sleeping on him. All right, folks, there you go. Any fantasy football questions, hit me up. Comment section. Use hashtag AskAndy or on Twitter at AndyMC81, at SickPodBrowns on Instagram, at AndyMCSports. Make sure you subscribe. Click the notification bell. Share the link. Comment below. And let's have some fun. We'll keep it going, the fantasy football and sports betting talk, as the weeks go on. Thanks to Lance Ryerson, my guest. We will see you next time on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. Go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.